Open the pod bay doors, please, Hal.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
Computer error occurring in the 9000 series.
Welcome to How to Be a Movie Snob. Folks, this is not the dooziest movie we've ever watched, but we're going to have some hard opinions, and we're going to be coming flying in fast or flying in really, really slow. Probably off flying really slow. I am joined today by stellar Seattle native, Mr. Patrick.
Hey, Seth.
Good to have you here, buddy. Thanks for coming off of the old Seattle space building. I can't think it was called.
It's good to see you both.
The Space Needle. Oh, so close.
He climbed down off the needle just for this podcast.
That's right. Mm-hmm. And the
My normal perch.
Moon Roving Mariah coming to us live here in the studio.
Yeah. Here I am. Hi.
Hi. Good to be here. And stellar Seth hanging out.
So you guys are both stellar.
I couldn't think of anything better. I went with Pat. I should have gone with him for the P, but it's too late. Oh, what? And Dottie.
Space Cadet.
Oh, guys. And
how about Space Cadet
Seth? Cadet Seth. And Dottie is, okay. All right. My child said she would not do this, but it's my child, so there we go.
It's
there
happening.
She is.
It's happening.
It's happening. Folks, this is now more excitement than the movie has in the entire movie.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, just kidding. I'm just kidding.
It'd be a lot cooler if she was in a gorilla suit.
That would have been nice.
Should be mine.
Missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Guys, I don't even know how to introduce this movie because as much shade as I'm about to throw, this is maybe the most parodied movie of all time. Maybe the most referenced movie of all time. Maybe the most influential movie of all time. Stop. It's one of those movies.
It's the most sci-fi of the sci-fi.
We don't even know there's before this movie and there is after. And there is nothing in between. No one can argue this. And that's not what we're going to argue. The fact that what we're probably going to be arguing today is whether this should have been a movie or just a science project. That's probably going to be the real argument we're going to have today.
Yeah.
Pat, what movie are we doing? Because this is right up your alley and you're going to have a lot more insight.
And it's on your list,
That's
I believe.
Right. This is on your top 10.
It's on my list, yes. 1968.
Before we were on the moon. Before we were on the moon, 1968.
The last one before the moon.
Actually, this is before we got into space. This is
the last movie before the moon landing.
Before the moon landing and before the
astronauts
United States
had seen the movie.
It's crazy.
Yes, 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
By one Stanley Kubrick.
Oh, the meticulous, the hard to work with, but sometimes
super
generous.
Strange.
And one heck of a beard. Stanley Kubrick. And somehow he got carte blanche for this movie. Thank you, Spartacus.
Well, he wrote it, partly.
Kind of. We'll get to that.
Some.
This movie... Okay, we're not going to... We got to go hot takes. Cold brews hot takes. It's too much. It's too much.
Yeah.
Mariah, we're going to start with you because you're going to have a hot take on this one that I know... You tend to have more hot takes on movies. You have a strong opinions.
You guys are coming in hot.
Oh, we're coming in real hot.
Yeah. Well, I guess I have two strong hot takes.
Okay, hot take numero uno.
One of them is...
Oh, I just missed my intro. I could have been Seth Hal again.
Oh,
that would have been way better. I didn't even see that one coming. Too late. Okay, sorry.
Another missed opportunity.
Hot take.
Hot take. This is the unfunny version of Spaceballs. Second hot take was I would have rather have gone to OMSI for the day.
Folks, for those of you who are not from Oregon.
For you Northwesterners.
That's the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry?
I think so.
What's the I stand for? Incorporated? Inc?
Stellar.
Interstellar?
Stellar. Stuff.
Anyways, that's pretty good hot takes. I feel like they're kind of one of the same sort of thing. All right, Pat, do you have your hot take? Because I'm interested for the big fan here. I'm excited for your.
What do you think about this?
Yeah. So my hot take, and this does not necessarily shade, how I really feel about it. But my hot take is this is Interstellar without the family drama.
Ooh.
No, let me correct you. This is Interstellar without the story.
If they just muted the family drama and left long blank spots.
Same, same.
The best part is like this is the edited version. Like Kubrick would have had like double the running and like double
The amount of filming that happened
Oh
that was
my
not
gosh.
used.
I'm gonna double check my hot take because it's gonna be because there are a couple of his movies I like, but after watching them, I don't think Stanley Kubrick is the greatest director, but the greatest meticulous planner because his stories they're not he's not in my top 10 list of directors for watchability, and I think that needs to be part of it. I think I'm getting to a point as a wannabe movie snob that this is a moving piece that changes other things. So I'm grateful this exists, but Star Wars is better.
I literally am playing with that same movie as Snob.
Okay.
So my hot take is Stanley Kubrick is overrated, but yet, in some senses, he's underrated. But yes, Stanley Kubrick's overrated as a director as a
Both.
whole.
He's both.
I just couldn't. After watching Barry Lyndon and this, and even going through parts of The Shining and Full Metal Jacket, I just feel story is like the 10th most important thing to him, and he'll probably admit that. Admit that.
Well, yeah, he's obsessed with the craft, and
So Stanley
I feel
Kubrick.
like he goes into all of them with a solid plan.
If Stanley Kubrick and Steven Spielberg
And he
were
doesn't stop to
together,
think.
that would be incredible.
Are these really long gaps worth the?
Imagine if Jurassic Park had Stanley Kubrick. I mean, it would have been 20 times as long.
Ooh, but it would have been
Isn't
really
Steven
accurate.
Spielberg and Stanley Kubrick together are AI?
On AI?
Yeah. Kubrick started it, Spielberg finished it. Isn't
Well,
that how it
yeah.
worked?
Well, that's, again, doesn't count because Stanley Kubrick wasn't breathing over Steven's shoulders. That's the crazy part. Stanley needs to be reined in. This movie could have been so freaking good. And I don't even need it to be resolved. I don't need it to be resolved and then like put the pieces together. It just could have been so much better with the way it was edited. We don't need to see him running for a minute and a half. We get it. This is a really cool effect.
Actually, I think that was one of the better parts for me. Because I was mesmerized by like, how are they doing this?
Whoever's editing Stanley Kubrick movies should be fired.
Thank
That's
goodness
how I feel
for
about
the
it.
Wikipedia
That's-
page that explained all of the things
Oh,
that
it's
I was
so
not
dumb.
understanding.
Yeah, I wish the writer of the novel had final cut. Keep all the cool effects, but we don't need it for as long as we do. The editor, the studio should have come down and chopped this movie anymore. If this movie was an hour and a half, it'd be the best movie ever made.
Pat?
That
Okay. So here's the deal.
Pat
Here's
just chewed a finger off listening to that.
I know.
No,
this
no,
is,
no.
This
Like,
is the time where
I-
he's way more snobby than us. He's like, no, the new ones are better, guys. But
Yeah,
this
you
is the
guys
one where
just don't get
you
it.
don't get it, brah.
Nobody gets
no,
it.
I
That
think
was the point.
It is largely this intellectual exercise, this movie. It's not a... Yeah, everything you guys are saying, I'm like, uh-huh. I totally agree with, like, the criticisms without having it devalue my enjoyment of the entirety of the thing. Because me watching it, even though I'm like, boy, those, ape suits or early man suits don't hold up as well
I
as
didn't
you
hate
know
those.
they used to. Although
I didn't
still,
hate those.
I
still
feel
not
like-
terrible.
I feel like some of them were believable and some of them were clearly not.
Yeah, I mean, you just see human-shaped things moving around. You're like, okay, but man, that was tough work. Them jumping around, And the Star Child.
Yes.
I'm holding up.
Yes, way to go, Pat.
2010.
I appreciate the
the
physical
Willamette
media.
Contact.
I didn't get any physical media this week, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Other than my shirt, of course.
Sadly, I don't have physical media of 2001, but I do have 2010, which I
Oh,
believe
you do? I didn't
was
even notice
picked
that.
up.
That's great.
Yeah, it was picked up for about $5, I think, from a bargain bin.
Oh.
Star Child is a lot.
Yes.
And does the Stargate need to be as long as it is? No. There's a bunch of stuff. It's the movie just takes the time it takes. It's not for you, audience member.
No,
it's
it's not.
Agree. I feel like
It's a
people call it
docu-
intellectual because it's lazy editing. That doesn't make it intellectual. It doesn't make the things that they're, oh, hey, let's make it longer. I
think-
got an idea. That's so smart. You must be an intellectual because you're boring. No, that is not true.
No, I mean,
I
I
think-
think what I mean by intellectual is it's not trying to engage us really emotionally. Like it's almost deliberately trying to withhold
Yeah.
or
emotion.
mentally.
It's
Literally,
meant for you. It's meant for you not to understand. It's like an intellectual documentary of what could possibly.
it's just made. Yeah, it's just to
I
provoke
didn't
thought.
understand
Yeah.
Interstellar. Interstellar was well edited. Again, this is the same. No, you could do the same problem of not connecting it all, like because they didn't. They didn't. If you cut those scenes just a little bit tighter, you still would have got the concept of like we don't know what the monolith is about. We don't know what all these things. It still is an intellectual movie. You're just not sat watching a guy run. And it would have been the other guy running next time. If Kubrick had his way, we would have had two guys running for 2 minutes just around the circle. And I get it, there's symbolism. You see the things that look like coffins. But no. Rein him in, make this a good movie, and you still get all the tech and the intellectualness. This is my air quote, y'all. Because it doesn't need to be boring to be intellectual. That's my statement.
Yeah, I think where the movie holds me, and again, I understand your perspective.
We're coming out
Where the
firing.
movie holds me is all of those long scenes. I'm constantly just eating up
gorgeous. Yeah.
all the
How did
visuals.
they-
It's gorgeous.
And I'm like, how did they do it? Look
And how'd
at the
they do it that
production
slow?
design.
Yeah.
And
It's
it's all
like-
insane. It's all
It
insane.
took
And some of them
13
are
guys 1 year to do those space backgrounds.
those multi-layered shots with different perspectives and people
Yeah.
clearly in different gravities. You're like, if that was a short shot, you wouldn't even have time to process what you were seeing
You
and
would-
how kind
you
of
would
amazing
now,
it was.
though.
Well,
You
and
would now.
there was a lot of things. Not only was it, I mean, him on the way to the moon going, that's what airplanes look like today. Everybody has a screen on the back of their seat. Like, this is interesting to me. Then the floating pen. Like, how did that
Clever.
look like zero gravity? And then you
Clever.
realize, oh, it's double-sided tape.
No, clever
Yeah, on
stuff.
a piece of glass.
Yeah,
Clever
like,
stuff.
that was, and then the jogging, like the running in the ship, that was really cool. For like, I
Okay.
could have.
Here's my props to Stanley.
There
though.
are pieces that I really appreciate.
Again, Stanley Kubrick
the
is the best.
craftsmanship you appreciate.
No one's arguing with this.
The length I
And
do
I-
not appreciate.
And he's using, and what I love about him is he's not willing to say do it my way or the highway. He's open to suggestions, and he's done all the, like that was something he learned from someone else. The whole double, like not using a green screen or a blue screen, he learned that from somebody else. Like there's a lot of things that he did.
I believe Buster Keaton came up with the
Yes, sir.
gag of the rotating room. So
I
shout out Buster.
yeah, Buster
Better
Douglas.
than Charlie Chaplin.
Well, Buster
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 Keaton.
Douglas can just punch his
Buster
way around. So.
Keaton.
Oh, right.
But yeah, so I think again, like to me, the movie, would I enjoy it more if we didn't have the prologue and the epilogue? Maybe. I don't know. But they're all there, and I just feast on it visually the whole time. And like, so to me, it's really enjoyable to just take in the craftsmanship. It's an art piece in a way. It's like walking through
I agree.
this amazing
It is,
museum.
and that was the intention. The intention came through. I mean, exactly what he wanted. This is a piece of artwork. You know, I want to use realistic space travel. I want to make this feel real. I want this to be legit. And he did, like, so well, to the point where
Outside
people were
of-
like, no way. And
Oh,
then
so
realized,
good.
like, oh, that is how they talked.
Yeah.
That is how
Yeah.
this worked. This, I mean, the
Like you
realism
train those
is
monkeys.
amazing, which is why I feel like it's documentary.
Yeah, it feels like a documentary. And I get it that this is groundbreaking, but I don't care about the prologue's great. I even like the postlogue. I like those because it's the concept of pre, current, postman. Like that's the concept, right? It's this very fun thing that you're trying to do in one movie. No, I'm just talking about the
Well,
long
the
edits. The
Yeah.
long edits in the middle that just slow it down. Now, I even like the lack of soundtrack, which don't tell us how to feel. I love that. I love that so much. Just the breathing. I just think it's lazy editing. I just think he's so because this is what we say when we're making movies: kill your babies. I know you worked that
It's
hard
all
on it.
precious to
You got to kill your babies, and Stanley can't do it. He's too attached
Well,
to that.
I feel like
triple
he felt like he
thrown
did.
in the
I
freezer.
felt like he went 50% less than what he would have
It
wanted.
should have been 90% less.
I
Let's
don't
just
know
be real.
I don't know
Yeah.
that he was ever capable. I mean,
No.
look at his.
Look at Barry Lyndon.
Look at
Come on
all
now.
of his movies.
Jeez.
Everything was like intentionally.
Yeah.
Was Eyes Wide Shut just him telling us what to do for half of his movies? Was that like
I'm not-
why it was his
I
final
didn't
movie?
watch it.
Because
I
he's
don't
just like,
know.
you know what? You don't need to watch half of it. Just get there when the howl turns bad, and you don't have to worry about them running around for a while. Just
That
turn
took
it on.
me a sec. That took me a sec because I was really trying to think about Eyes Wide Shut, and then you
no,
you
just
made
a joke. I said it's a joke.
You
Pat.
made a joke.
Joke. Them jokes.
Yeah, I didn't watch
Yeah.
it.
No,
It's not a funny joke. If you didn't watch it.
no, it has nothing to do with the movie.
It's not a funny joke. It's the name.
Bye, Cat.
Eyes Wide Shut. That you should shut your eyes during half this movie, Mariah.
Yeah, because see, my eyes were wet.
But you didn't have to because Kubrick made it black screen for plenty of time.
Did you guys check your TV?
Yes, I checked
I
my
haven't seen this
TV.
movie in so long. I had to check my TV. I'm like, oh no,
I-
we're good. This is Kubrick being
And
Kubrick.
Zone of Interest starts like that, right? And you're
Yeah.
like, is
Yes.
this
yeah.
Yes.
something wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Revelation, I don't think I've ever seen it. I know
All the way
I've
through?
seen like pieces, but
Yeah, you've
I've,
seen
Oh, 2001.
I've
Yeah.
never watched this
Really?
movie.
That's fun.
It's well, like,
And by fun, I mean not fun. But,
And-
yeah, it's fun.
A little
and like to your
humiliating,
point
I
earlier,
guess.
Seth, the amount of influences it had, and
it's
parodies,
amazing. I just
You have seen this movie
Oh.
in bits and
Oh, I've
pieces
seen
in
Spaceballs.
a billion formats,
Did you-
right?
I've seen
so
Spaceballs.
Spaceballs
The
wasn't the
beginning of
first movie I
Barbie.
thought. Barbie's the first thing I thought of. Exactly right, Pat. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is. I didn't realize how exact, like frame by frame,
Basically
almost.
shot for shot.
It's so. I was like. The
Yeah.
crashing and the bar. I'm like, why is that doll flying so high in the air? I'm like, oh. Okay. So our hot takes went a little crazy and talked about the entire film. I apologize to the audience. There will be spoilers. We're going into all the things, but hey, guys, this movie's already
Can you
spoiled.
spoil this movie?
You've seen it in every
Odyssey,
single sci-fi
Odyssey
movie
one,
you've ever
Spaceball
seen.
One.
Oh,
Also, we can explain the entire plot, and I don't think it really spoil it.
no,
Nobody even
Again,
really.
plot.
gosh, and
I mean, is Wikipedia even right with the plot? Like
well,
the whole ending
I don't know, I
piece,
didn't
I
double
felt
check.
like was really open to interpretation.
yes,
Like I don't know that I was so aware that they were claiming there was this extraterrestrial intelligence at play here. I was thinking it was just artificial intelligence gone wrong.
so.
But
Oh, but that's the monolith.
That's
like,
the
who
monolith.
said the monolith?
Yes. So the question, well, that's actually a good one, Mariah. I like the fact that maybe
set
it's
up
all
Stonehenge?
AI before humans existed. That could be another fun one as well. And then they recreated AI, Back to the Future. Hey, I've seen that. It's called Terminator 2.
But no, but the ending where he like sees
Or
himself
Interstellar.
getting older
Interstellar.
and the whole like
Yeah.
stages and suddenly he's a baby again. Like I didn't realize until I read that this is supposed to be communicating like him perhaps being in the hands of the extraterrestrials putting him through all of this or giving him these
Yeah.
visions of this. And
Yes.
that's where I was like, well, I don't really know what's happening at the end.
It's hard because you have two writers who are disagreeing on it throughout the process.
But that fetus did look like Dave.
The eyes.
Yeah, it was
Oh.
very Dave-like.
Oh yeah.
It
Star
wasn't
Child's
a
eyes.
real-looking
For sure.
fetus, but it looked, but it
Had the
did
right-
look like Dave.
Yes.
Star Child.
So we got to talk about this. Who this is written by? This was written with a collaboration between Stanley Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke, the best filmmaker arguably of the time and the best sci-fi writer of the time. Also, sci-fi
Based on many shorts
many
that
shorts,
he did.
and they decided to go mostly with the Sentinel, but then rewrite it themselves. And then while they were writing it, they also made a novelization that came out like simultaneously as they're writing the movie.
And
It's a
then
pretty
multiple,
interesting
Yes.
process.
and then
I mean,
multiple
yeah.
novels.
Yeah, I mean, I think what was interesting is Kubrick was more or less writing the
The
screenplay
screenplay.
Yeah.
as Arthur C. Clarke was writing the book.
Yeah.
And they
Yep.
would go, hey, this is what I did, and hey, this is what I did.
Yeah.
And they kind of became the same thing, but the ending and some pretty big
Yes.
details are very different.
Well, and the book gives
Jupiter
you so
versus
much.
Saturn. and-
Yeah, and the book gives you so much more explanation of what's happening because that's
Which-
how that
Which
works.
take it back because this is the funniest thing to me.
I
Very
did read.
Kubrick.
No, I did read the book actually in high
good
school.
for you.
Um,
Nice.
And I do remember. It honestly felt kind of equally strange.
I don't remember Pat reading in high school. Just,
It was one of very few books I read.
What was he
and
like?
I was like, I want to
Hanging
read
out-
this
Oh, he was
book.
playing video games. Yeah, that's fair.
Or watching TV.
Or
movies.
watching TV. There we go.
I guess I wasn't there the whole time.
Yeah. But we got to talk about Stanley saying, "Oh yeah, no, we're going to use your narration for the whole movie."
Oh yeah.
So
Well, several people really wanting narration. And him being like, nah.
and then wasn't it Arthur C. Clarke's voice? Like he narrated the whole movie. They actually did the
I don't
whole
know.
thing.
Oh, and just didn't.
Oh,
use
and they just
it?
didn't use it. No, so this
I know
actually
there was
happened.
narration, and at a
Yes.
certain point, Kubrick was like, nah.
Yeah, and he didn't
And
quite
I think-
tell Mr. Clarke.
I honestly,
But Kubrick's like,
like-
I'll do the heavy breathing though in the suit.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
not
yeah.
only are you not narrating, but I'm
'Cause
going to do
no one
the
else-
breathing.
But I
It's
already
gonna
know
be
what
my
you're going to
daughter
say.
on the video call.
And I agree
Yeah.
that I'm glad they didn't do narration as well because it takes away the whole thing of this, right? Like
It would
that's-
have made it
yeah,
kind of
why?
a cheesy, or it would have made it more like a Discovery Channel special about
Yeah, it would have
what
been
meeting intelligent
David
life would be like or
Attenborough
something.
talking us
Oh,
through
yeah.
this
So good.
expedition.
So
Yeah. So what do humans do when
Yeah.
confronted with artificial intelligence?
Yes.
They send out into the stars. You know, you'd be like,
Which
well,
would have
okay.
been very 1968, though. There's so many, like,
Yeah.
and this is what the wife does at home. When, honey, here I am, and blah, 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 blah.
notice there's Pan Am shoes that
And
grip
she used
onto the
this
floor.
Frigidaire, blah, blah, blah.
It did feel a little
Yeah.
infomercially.
A
It
little.
felt like they were selling the future.
And if they'd done the narration, it would
a
have
little
been like,
bit,
whoa.
Yeah. I felt a little bit like just having commercials.
Yeah.
That was pretty great. Because again, like the plot is so good. It could have been very like going. For, it just had these not like pauses, but like literal naps in between the next plot point.
Yeah. I think they nailed the future. I feel like the
Oh, yeah.
shuttles, the phone conference, all of
the toilet with all the instructions.
the one intentional joke
yeah, that was great.
of the movie.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
think the
they're-
whole thing's in
they're
a kind of a joke.
tablets.
Yeah, the tablets are good. The
Even just
FaceTime.
an onboard AI.
Yes.
You know, like there's a ton of stuff in there. You're like, yep, this is kind of how it would work, and it is how it works
Yeah.
in some ways.
Yeah, they're not far off.
No, it's very and let's talk about the whole. This is the first AI take over the world,
And it makes you
right?
You
AI
forget,
going against people.
it makes you forget this is 1968 that this is happening. It feels so much later. The content and the delivery and the cinematography and
the
all
craftsmanship.
special effects, everything feels way later.
And we could say that with
And
almost.
Seth, you could argue
Yeah, go ahead.
Star Wars doesn't look this good.
No, it doesn't.
no, because
It doesn't. It's not meant to look the same. But
No.
even none of the VFX at the time,
But Space
even in
Balls
Star Wars,
does.
like they added. I would say I enjoy hyperspace. The jump to hyperspace maybe more than the Stargate. But like in terms of the actual
Stargate
functionality
is
of
just
ships
going
and things,
plaid, you guys.
going plaid.
it's this the craftsmanship's so good. That front projection they did,
Looks great.
it's
all great.
incredible looking.
Yeah.
I would-
Except for a couple things.
I
to
wish
me where I'm
Stanley
like,
Kubrick
"Ugh."
was an editor, like a final editor. No, guys, we're gonna do read this part. We're gonna do it better. Like I want him to take movies that kind of are crappy, that have great plots, and then you get the Stanley Kubrick effect. But I don't want him writing storylines. I just don't want him touching movies for too long because he'll forget that there's actually entertainment value, and he'll just make pretty things that look gorgeous.
I don't think it was important to him. Look at Barry Lyndon.
And
it's very
it works
thoughtful.
for a lot of people.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. No, you guys are all
inspired
lying
all
to
of your
yourselves.
favorite
No. Yes,
sci-fi.
it's inspired because they're like, hey,
appreciate
this is
all
good
that
except for
he-
the story. We need to make this, but with the
sci-fi doesn't
story.
sci-fi doesn't have to be garbage.
No.
That, I will give you that.
Right.
And maybe that's the whole point. And this is where we
I
get
don't
back.
argue with the content. I just argue that there's too much.
So, and
Or
this is
that
the whole thing.
certain
Style
pieces were stretched.
is
a little
style.
too
Is this
far.
like French New Wave where it's style over substance? Because a lot of times we talk about like.
But the French New Wave movies were under 2 hours.
They
To
didn't
me,
feel- sometimes they didn't feel like it though.
No.
Sometimes they
No,
didn't
they-
feel like it.
The opposite side of this to me is like a Terrence Malick movie, which feels like it's all emotion over plot.
Yeah, that's true. I like Terrence Malick.
You know, like it's pretty. But they're like
No, you're
somewhat
right. Exactly
nonlinear and ethereal, and
And-
you're like, what is happening?
Exactly.
But there's just people
Yeah.
feeling feelings the
Yeah.
whole time.
I've got a Malick
This
on
is
my
the
top
opposite.
10. He's got,
Yeah.
Kubrick on his
Yeah,
top 10.
I don't want too much feelings and all.
Exactly, because you're dead inside, Pat.
Yeah.
Oh, I do think this because Kubrick, the fact that Kubrick had this kind of permission to do this is a gift for filmmakers from here going forward. The fact that he was able to create a $750,000 turning machine, is that right? $750,000? I read that right.
I think so.
Oh
I don't know.
my goodness.
I think 60% of the budget for the movie was the VFX. I believe.
Well,
Yeah,
not
for
one
sure.
of the actors was known.
Which is good because
At
they
all.
didn't have to speak
And
any
they
lines.
weren't really known
so-
after either. Like
know. I was-
soap operas,
exactly right.
did an episode of Star Trek, did like these are like the largest credits these people had.
I also
Voice-
kind
voice
of love
of
that about
Bambi's
this movie.
mom.
Ooh,
I think one of
bummer.
them. Like there's not a lot.
Yeah. But
That's
like
funny.
I think that's what also makes this movie feel somewhat like documentary style
Or mystery science
documentary.
theater
Or Nova.
where it was just like these people well no, but like these people only exist in the world of this movie
That's true.
because this all happened and it's a real thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's like
it's great. It's true.
yeah, they're like really good in the movie. Like
Yeah.
for what they're trying to do. And,
They did
and something I'd
so-
read
Go ahead.
something I'd read, which I thought was interesting after watching, was like Dave and
Frank.
Cook. Yeah, was it Frank Cook? Anyway,
I don't know.
Dave and
It's
Frank
Dave
are
for
like-
sure. Dave.
they were
Wow.
trained as these pilots to not get flustered under pressure, and so there's all this like, why aren't you freaking out?
Yeah, he's
Stuff. And there's, like, an
he's
undertone of it.
fluttering out into space.
Yeah, but even Dave like let me in, to
Yeah.
the hatch, Hal, and
You
and just it's like, yeah, he's an astronaut who just got sent into deep space. He can't have emotional freakouts.
Yeah,
Like the whole thing had this layer of like, this is for people
Yeah.
who are going to be cool under pressure, but it makes it this crazy vibe where you're like, I'm used to people screaming at me
Yeah.
about
the
things.
first reviews is like the opposite of Alien, but the first reviews is the most human character in the entire movie is Hal.
yeah,
well,
and
he's
they're-
manipulative.
Yeah, and he's got emotion. I'm sorry, Dave.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what
Yeah.
Stop, Dave.
Should we
Please
stop the podcast
Dave.
now?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mariah.
yeah.
One of the fun facts that
What
I
a
liked so
great
much
character.
about
What
the
a great character.
believability of this was that since the moon landing happened shortly after,
Yes.
all of the conspiracy theories that snowballed after this, like, this is too close
Right?
to what that movie is like. I think this was all staged.
Stanley
This is
did it.
not real. Yeah,
Yep.
Stanley directed this.
Soundstage in London.
Never
and
happened.
except for the moonwalking, which they weren't, a little bit lower gravity, it all does kind of look
Oh, looks
like you could be like grainy video of this. You'd be like, yeah, that's the moon landing, right?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
It's crazy.
No,
Yeah,
no,
all this stuff they got right. They didn't even have imaging of the moon.
This is more
This is
believable
definitely better
than
documented.
the moon
Yeah.
landing.
Yeah.
For sure.
Although the time taken to go to Jupiter
We gotta say, Pat, the only reason I think this movie even made it from not being with the biggest bomb in history is because of the timing of the moonwalk and
Psychedelic
how
drugs.
popular acid was.
Yeah.
So we're
Yeah,
grateful
the sneaker
for the
effect
timing.
of it is
Yeah.
like, hey, you guys,
David
there's
Bowie's
this like
album?
whole
Oh.
long segment here where you're like, whoa.
You can
And
really
it
trip.
was a laser light show.
Oh, for sure. No, this is
Absolutely.
definitely a great like. I mean, you can talk in the movie. I was watching it in the living room, and Megan came in like, "Oh, you want to pause the movie?" I'm like, "I don't have to.
Nobody's
just go ahead and
talking.
talk.
I
It's
just
just
have
gonna be
to
classical
stare at-
music. It's
gonna be
literally
no dialogue
2
for another
minutes
20
of this
minutes.
thing going down, and I get it. I can see
Yeah.
the little people. Some of them are
80
upside down. It's cool. I get it.
88 minutes out of the 2 hours and 30 are non.
That's a great stat. That is a great stat.
88
It's crazy.
minutes. That's a long time. That's as long as a normal movie.
There was moments
Normal
in
kids
this,
movie,
and,
you know.
and it's probably better that way because when they did talk, it felt a little bit This Island Earth.
Yeah, they weren't. That's the thing. That might be
Well,
why
kinda
these
has
guys
this,
didn't
like-
act afterwards either.
Yeah.
It's like it
Oh.
felt
Yeah,
like
but-
a weird business meeting.
I wish I could tell you, buddy.
situation.
Hey.
Yeah, I loved all that. That's this
It was funny.
weird.
It was funny.
Yeah, I just everything, all the things that you're calling out. And again, I understand why lots of people wouldn't like this movie. It's way too long and slow
Yeah,
for most people, I would guess.
yeah.
And to me, there's even like, I was like, how long is the Stargate? I forgot how long the Stargate sequence was, right? I was like, oh yeah, okay, we're getting back to like,
Yep.
hypercolor land again. So okay,
Long
that's
enough
probably
to
wrapping
wake up, turn the show back on, and rewind to where
Yeah.
you thought it was last saw.
Yeah.
Like, oh no,
You know,
I hadn't gotten to the
oh.
weird Grand Canyon in different
It's
colors
still
yet.
spinning.
Right.
Still
It is
spinning.
So
Back
long.
to the eyeball. Wait, which eyeball scene
Oh,
was I
shoot.
at?
Yeah, which
Like,
color?
Yeah.
The red bad AI still comes through this day. That's such a great bit.
Yeah. But
Oh.
I just still it tickles me most of it. Again, I'll grant you we could cut some fat.
Yeah.
I don't
I
generally need intermissions in my movies unless it's Monty Python
So good.
because that's just funny.
Well, you know, the joke is they have the intermission because it's a weird time. It's like after 2 hours, then there's only half an hour left.
No, I think it's like right at
No.
almost like an hour. It's like an hour and 2 minutes or something.
But it's
Yeah.
not in the middle, is what
It's
they
not
said.
the middle. It's
So
after.
No.
the
Because I
rumor
remember the
is-
first time I was like, yes, I made it halfway. I can go to bed.
No, you did not. The rumor is that's when you could take acid and it'll hit right when they get to that one like color scene. That's the rumor.
But I
really?
don't
That's
know
the
that
rumor.
Stanley Kubrick knew that.
Well,
No,
Stanley
I
Kubrick
had
didn't take
heard-
jokes. He never
No,
did jokes.
That's why I was going to.
I had heard there was a point in the time where this was going to be a roadshow movie, where at the beginning
Good
there'd
shout
be
out, by
people
the way.
talking, and scientists talking
can we
about
talk
things.
about what a
and so-
roadshow movie is? Because that was a standard in cinema talk that's no longer a thing.
Yeah, what is a roadshow movie, Pat or Seth?
Because the roadshow movies,
I'll let
like,
Seth
they're-
talk, yeah.
well, I'll talk about what I understand it to be. I just finished that book, Pictures at a Revolution,
Roadshows.
and that was kind of the death of roadshow movies right around that time, which is Bonnie and Clyde, which is really close to this time as well, right? So
Yeah.
roadshow movies would have been like The Sound of Music, or it's like the big movie that they make, the big expensive one, Cleopatra. These are the roadshow movies that they would show basically everywhere.
Rocky Horror Picture Show.
No, that is not an example of a road.
Oh.
But so the problem was like the roadshow movie for.
I'm thinking like audience interaction.
Oh no, that's what we think. That would be a good thing, but that's no, because
No, it's more like movies dressed up as theater, like a play. So there would be acts.
Sure.
Nice.
There would be
yeah.
act one and act two, and there'd
Yeah.
be an intermission and
Yeah.
live music potentially, or live orchestration or something.
But now those movies didn't fare well.
Well, those movies had intermissions because you were so excited watching the movie that you really had to go by intermission and you needed a break because you didn't want to miss anything. This movie is not that. That's not what that intermission was for.
It's to wake you
Because
up.
you're not like,
Hey, there's a second half.
I have to
Hey,
go outside and get
hey.
slapped in the face a few times so that I can stay conscious through the whole.
I want to talk about
Stargate
what this
scene.
movie almost was. some of the plots that changed, because I think that is fascinating. The fact that they changed the plot so much, because the original thing was kind of this anti-war sentiment. Sentiment. Because you first
Sedimentary
because
rock.
you obviously have the touching the monolith, discovering tools to kill somebody, and then it flies up in the air, and then you see the satellites. Now, I didn't know this, but all the satellites they show have different insignias of like the United States Air Force, the People's Republic Army, the Egyptian Army, the Chinese National, the Luftwaffe. There was a Luftwaffe one on one of them as well.
It was very Cold War-y.
Yes.
Well, and that wasn't a satellite. It was a nuclear delivery.
Because they're nuclear deliveries, and that was the whole point of this. Like, this is the new war, and
weapon
so then
to weapon.
Yep.
Well,
and
and this came just right after Doctor Strangelove, too, for
which is why
Kubrick.
they got rid of that, because originally they were going to have this whole thing where they go and get rid of all the nukes, but that felt too Doctor Strangelove.
Star Child was going to come back
and
Yeah.
basically be all peaceful and whatever else. But it's so fascinating because then
it
all
would
these
make
things,
sense that he would really, because his movies are so contrasting to each other.
For
that
sure.
if he saw like there was too much similarity between this and another one, he'd be like, no way, this has to be a complete and total departure. We're in outer space now, guys. This is not
no more references. Oh, I do love Doctor Strangelove. Sorry, Kubrick. I still love it.
And it's just again Cold War vibes, right? Like so that was on
Everybody's mind.
on the minds.
Everyone's mind. So I thought that was fascinating because it was just so much more of a clean cut thing. But then when they got rid of that, because it was such a weird, like such an obvious edit from there, and then it gets really less obvious as you go on. So it just seemed kind of some of the times I questioned them, like, you did this for a reason, but then you didn't pick it up. Was that intentional, or you just had to kill some babies and go along with it? Like, so sometimes I'm like, I get it. It's supposed to be this thing, but I'm like, I don't think it's the thing you thought it was, and it's not quite the thing other people are attributing to it. Yes, it's a work of art. I am not denying that for 1 second. This is a work of art that changed cinema, maybe more than any movie since the first movie. Like because it's that influential.
Well, it opened the
and
doors for those other movies to be welcomed. There could be quality made.
Well, setting an aspirational quality bar of like, you can have classy sci-fi.
Yeah,
or,
like Aliens.
Well done sci-fi.
Yeah.
Like Alien.
Alien
Yeah,
and Star
it is
Wars.
well done.
But it's not classy. You got a lot of blood going on there. This is a rated
But
G,
the aesthetics,
Classy
the
underwear.
aesthetics of Alien, like the ships and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
that's what I'm talking about,
fully
Seth.
I mean,
Come on.
referenced.
I've just watched it for the first time this year. I thought it was great.
What I thought was interesting, and honestly, is something I didn't totally get. I don't think, like Hal's whole arc, is like pretty great in that, like, and you only get it right at the end. And I'm curious if you guys caught this, because I didn't the first several times I watched the movie. The reason he starts breaking down is because of human error. Like basically he mentioned before, he was given an order to lie to the crew, and he had opposing orders
About what
to
the
not
mission
distort
was
the truth.
to be.
And then it became like
That's great.
his orders were to not tell the crew about the mission, and the closer they were getting to where he was supposed to reveal the mission,
He's like, I'm just gonna end life support.
he's
That's
like,
three people I
I'm
don't
not
have to deal
supposed
with."
to. Well, I'm not supposed to tell you.
Yeah.
And so it became this, like, he had opposing orders. So these dumb humans,
Mm-hmm.
Coded this robot to be in conflict with himself. So he didn't understand how to carry out his orders anymore, and went crazy.
Yeah.
And the whole thing too is like,
Which kind of gives you
man gets tools,
Yeah.
and then they get corrupted by the use of them by
Yeah.
murdering or
Yeah.
Anyway,
Which does make
that
more
to me is this interesting underpinning of the whole.
Sure, and I didn't know that, or I realized that, and I think it kind of gives a little more depth to him, like kind of questioning Dave, like, well, how are you feeling about this, or do you think this, and like maybe he was looking not to be more manipulative, but to actually get like a good idea of like how he should proceed, like based on the feelings of this person.
You know what would have been great?
Well, and after that, he said, hey, the satellite's going to go down.
Focused on these parts more and less on the running around the ship. Or less on the docking, but just
so
like
he just kills everybody.
just
so
actually
that
like because that's the best part of the movie.
He doesn't have to tell anybody if they're all dead.
This is what makes this movie good: the humanization of the robot. And every
they
movie has copy in front of it.
Time doing that,
and then they're like, you know what we could do? Let's dock another ship for a while. Oh my gosh! And there's so many scenes that are so good. There's so many. Like,
I love him shadowboxing around that ring. I could watch 2 more laps
from the crotch angle.
Yeah.
Well, although I got to give Kubrick credit, like he's changed the camera angle on this ridiculously expensive rig just to mess with people, which is so freaking cool.
Nuts.
But
all those moves,
bro.
All that
5
stuff
seconds is all you need. You don't need to do that for 30 seconds each time.
No,
Anyways,
all that's great.
It's
just spend a little less time with the ships
docking,
floating through space. Floating
through
space.
They had to show 4 different rear projections.
And they could have maybe not even like trimmed the length of those, but just he did it 5 or 6 times.
What's
maybe
funny,
only do it 3 or 4 times. Like that would have saved us all 15 minutes. That would have been helpful.
When Hal does kill Frank, it's so fast.
So fast.
Yeah, you don't even realize
it was
like,
such a good cut.
And
then
with
he
his own
flying
air pack,
across the screen.
I didn't realize he cut his air supply. Like I just thought, oh no, Frank's just floating about, and then I'm like, well, Frank's not moving, so I think he's just a dead body floating out there.
It's so
he's flailing around for a bit trying to put it back.
Yeah,
and they don't even like deal with the emotional strain that they don't show him getting the body.
There's no Frank face.
He's holding the body.
They don't show Frank going, like,
and then he's
got to
release the body to go back. They don't.
Of course, then it wouldn't have been rated G.
They don't deal with any of this turmoil. They just like skip over it. It's crazy. And how? Oh, so there's so many.
I mean,
things.
He missed his kid's birthday without it like a second thought.
And they missed his birthday too. Come on, birthdays are a big thing in this one.
Not to Dave.
Dave. I don't think we referenced Dave's birthday.
Oh, you're right. Just Frank.
Frank had a birthday, and then the scientist's daughter.
That's right.
Who was Kubrick's daughter.
Yep, that was interesting. Do you see how bright those lights were? My goodness. On the hard shadows behind. I kept watching that. I'm like, wait, they must have shot that on like a Super 8. And just needed
I was worried.
She's going to go blind with those lights.
When she said Bush baby, that was something
racist or something.
I want a Bush baby.
Yeah.
Aren't they little
did you look
critters?
It up?
Weird.
They're little critters from
little
Australia.
Monkey-ish thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
So it was fine, I guess. Weird thing to want. Apparently they were popular around the time.
Pretty
I don't
illegal.
know.
Probably to own a Bush baby. Certainly is now.
Yeah, who knows?
But they are real cute.
No.
There's so many amazing things about this movie. Let's go through some of our favorite things we found while kind of listening or researching. Where are some things you're like blown away by? I know there's a lot of things that we kind of knew, but like things that you're surprised again after like researching this film. Because like the practical stunts are insane to me. The one where they dropped the zero gravity ability to show was I just liked all the cleverness. We talked about the plexiglass just with double-sided tape.
Yeah, and I want to go back and watch the stewardess grab it out of the air again, and I want to like see like how much of a tug she has to do, like because I didn't realize
there's a little bit.
I'd watched
I did go back.
There's some Zach King action going on here, though. It felt like Zach King's been watching some.
Oh
Kubrick.
yeah.
Nice.
Well, I think that's part of it. And again, Seth, yes, we probably could trim off the beginning and end of these things, but there's something to like. We're just showing you this for a long time.
Yeah.
Because we're seeing this pen floating in the foreground, and you're thinking, oh, that's cool. And then she grabs it and tucks it in his pocket, and you're like, well, wait, how did they do that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it just.
That's the first that I
there
was
is
thinking
enough
that
time
still
when you're seeing some of this stuff, and you're like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
The zero gravity fall. Do you research this one?
And the jogging,
I mean, you're
all
just
of it.
shooting upward, and they're on wires.
So he jumped
coming
down
towards camera,
and then the guy they tied a knot on it, and the guy I think he worked
so he'd know when to pull it.
No,
the grip.
He grabbed it and jumped
and went up
to pull him back up.
Oh,
remember? So it was a one take, and that was the actual actor. It wasn't a stuntman. So
Yeah, because his helmet was off.
because he's pulling towards. So they're done. That's like you could die from that.
That was a crazy shot.
Crazy
That was a
shot.
crazy shot.
So you have all these things where Stanley Kubrick does 1,000 takes just because he needs to get the science right, and then you have a one take of these action shots, which are crazy.
Yeah.
So it's
One of the fails, though, is that jump. It showed him taking a big, deep breath. And apparently, in reality, if you're doing that kind of a jump,
Oh, you
in
need to blow all the
space,
air out.
You have
Yeah.
to blow the air out because otherwise
We
your
did-
lungs couldn't handle that.
oh yeah, that makes sense.
His face got all red. He was doing something right before he blew the hatch. I thought that's what he was doing. The funny thing I was going to say, I have a fun fact about the stewardess or the flight attendant, space attendant. I don't know what you call that
Yeah.
person.
Lady on the
Who
rocket.
grabbed the pen. Apparently, the lady she was basically high or stoned because she had like dental surgery, and so she's on really strong narcotics. So she couldn't walk straight, but it kind of
Which
made
was
it make
perfect
sense.
for zero gravity.
I
As
was
she's, like,
wondering.
kind of
she did not
walking
look
all
together.
funny.
I
That's
did
such
wonder.
a good bit.
I thought it was like,
And apparently
I was-
Kubrick thought like, oh yeah, that looks cool
I was
because
thinking
you'd
like,
be a little.
because they show her
zero G.
slippers or shoes, and I was like,
Yeah,
how
the
are
Velcro
those
shoes.
weighted? Like,
Oh,
are
it's
those
so
weighted or what's happening with those?
Yeah, they
Well-
just say it was like Velcro shoes on it. I forget what they say, but it's like, oh yeah, that's stuff like that. You're like, well, that's clever.
Oh,
yeah, you just
the
kind of
bones,
sticky
too.
yourself around.
The
There's
mime.
tons of
So we got to talk about
clever
the mime. So they hired mimes to do the ape scene, which was way better than anything else at the time. But he accidentally hit the bones to go up, and he's like, "Oh, sorry about that, Stanley." And Stanley's like, "No, that looks cool. Do it again." And I love that about
Yeah.
Kubrick on set. He's just like, "Dope. Let's go with that."
works.
Yeah. But then he's like, can we make the docking scene a little longer though, guys? I just don't I want to make sure we get all the way down. I don't think they know where we're going yet. So anyway.
It was long. That was long. I'll
For
give you that.
all of
I
the
think
things
this-
that you don't know that are happening, there are so many things that are like, yeah, we get it.
I think
Finish.
what kind of
would
blew me
you?
away. What kind of blew me away on this one was all the front and rear projection
Yep, that was
on
amazing.
these tiny little screens
That
where you're
looks
like,
so good.
yes, I was like, wait a minute. How the heck do they have like 20 screens in here all playing these little different movies?
Mm-hmm.
And even just their little iPad scene, right? And you're like, wait a minute. You know, like there's just stuff that they do that you take for granted in movies now because that would just be green screen. Sometimes they're actually screens, but like it's just not, it's trivial now. Where then it was like they literally had little 16 millimeter projectors in all these little holes. So it looked like a little
Amazing.
futuristic screen. I'm like,
Amazing.
wow. It's so
Such
so
good-
much of it looks way too good for
It's
the
a
time.
filmmaker's film. Like
Yeah.
you think about it, like good
And I
old fashioned filmmaking.
I
but
think
with
he really knew that
pushing
too.
the envelope.
And sadly, one of the fun facts is he destroyed like almost everything he could get his hands on so that people didn't use it anywhere else.
Oh yeah.
Like
and make a crappy movie. With it.
yeah. Like, oh, how devastating that those things aren't like those models,
How
like
funny.
the ships. Like, oh, how cool would it have been if those things were still around?
They
and you
did
could
keep
see
the
them?
circle thing though.
There's
That's
a couple
nice,
things
though.
that
They kept
survived,
that.
but not a lot.
Some music videos. Bye bye bye.
It did disturb me that the dead zebra was a real
It's a
dead
horse.
painted horse.
It's a horse.
Oh.
I didn't love that.
There's a Simpsons episode where they're painting all the horses to be cows. They're like, why don't you guys just use cows? I was like, oh, no. On film, you got to paint a horse. What if you need a horse? We'll probably just have a stand-in. That's totally like a shout out to Kubrick.
Yeah, what were those animals?
So one of them was real.
Oh, it's like capybaras or something.
Are
weren't
they?
Oh, the cat. Yeah.
No, I think they're too big.
No, that was really them.
I think they're
Oh no, it
shame.
wasn't a capybara because
No.
it's like an anteater relative.
Yeah. It's like an anteater donkey kind of thing. Like, what is that? And why were there only two animals there? Why are there only like the primates and the whatever things?
Yeah.
I was so confused.
And the
Yeah, I don't
Also
know.
thinking
Jaguar.
like this is supposed to be a space odyssey. Why are we doing this for so long? And then suddenly there's no the lack of explanation. Well, I understand it as like a creative way to
Tapers.
What?
Tapers.
Tapers? Capers.
Yeah. Tape.
Yeah.
TAPIR.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, tapirs.
Stop it. Is
Is
that really
that
how
how
you
you
pronounce
pronounce
it?
That's how I do at the zoo.
So you've heard of these before?
Yes, I've seen them at the zoo. They have them at zoos, guys.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Tapir.
They're cool. But I didn't realize that's what that was.
Oh, Graham's going to
Yeah.
show this in the show notes.
What is there like a pronunciation thing?
We'll get the research team on that. Taper.
I'm just gonna go with taper because I don't want Mariah to be right about that.
According to Wikipedia.
It's a taper. It doesn't sound as good.
No.
No, tapir. Do you have any tapirs at your
I
zoo?
think I think Finn had like. Well, if you look at how it's actually spelled, you'd think it's maybe a tapir. Anyway, we digress.
I feel like we just landed a spaceship in that segment of this podcast.
Are we on Saturn or Jupiter, you guys?
Doesn't matter. Oh,
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
so
Hal,
good.
Hal, the voice of Hal,
So good.
the filming of a piece of glass on the side of a screen, like the fact that character is so fully fleshed out in a way is kind of mind-boggling.
Well, and how relieved are we that they didn't actually use a real robot and they considered doing that in the beginning?
Oh yeah, like it would have been like Rocky whatever 4's
It would have been
bug
so
robot
bad.
lady, and you're like, this is
Thank you.
dumb.
Thank you for not doing that.
Stanley really wanted to have aliens in the movie, though. Like he really,
He really wanted to
them.
have insurance.
No, I think that was Arthur C. Clarke.
No, it was Kubrick that wanted to get the insurance.
For what?
Oh really?
Yes,
What do you mean?
for in case the extraterrestrials
In case aliens actually
came
showed up.
before the movie came out.
Stop it.
I'm not kidding.
Stop
This
it.
is a fun fact, you guys.
That is so good because I guess we were about to go into space anyways.
Yeah. Stanley Kubrick wanted to get an insurance policy from Lloyd's of London to protect himself against losses in the event that extraterrestrial intelligence was discovered before the movie was released.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
But they pointed out to him that they weren't actually like looking for that right now. So chances of anyone finding it
great.
in the
Yeah.
meantime was slim.
Yeah. The monoliths were originally pyramids in the book. That's another thing we used to talk about. The cool thing about the monolith, it was
Because too hard to make it.
Tetrahedrons or
yes,
see-through.
Tetrahedral
the
pyramids.
best thing about it is them making it matte black because originally it's supposed to be all like shiny and reflective, but matte black is so much creepier. It's just
Well, also if it's
Sucks in the-
reflective
oh, it's
and
so
you've
good.
got all those cameras,
That would be horrible.
That would be really
That'd
stressful
be a rough
to
shot.
try and get a good shot.
Kubrick would
even-
have figured it out.
even for
Even for
Kubrick.
Kubrick.
And honestly, like my favorite stuff is basically every production design decision in the whole.
That whole
It
thing in
all
the bedroom
feels-
at the end, like why? This is so
Oh,
weird.
Yeah,
I
they all
liked it. That was a flip from the book. He was supposed to
Like in a
regress
zoo.
to a baby
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
opposed to aging
Oh, interesting.
out. But
Huh.
But
Yeah.
they did the aging.
and it's
then
one of
the
those
baby.
like
Yeah.
yeah, and then he became the Star Child, a new beginning.
Yeah.
Also, again, like there's a ton because I watched Interstellar pretty recently. Again, like the idea of how do advanced beings portray like a 5-dimensional space to a human, and it's like make it like an earthly space, and the idea he was with these aliens basically in the end in this kind of fancy with
Yes.
lit
Hanging
tile
out.
floor is just like it's such a cool visual. Just all of it, you're like, what a cool visual.
Yeah,
Old man
the
looking at a
eating-
giant monolith in a bedroom. You're like, that's cool. Like, what an interesting story this must be. And maybe some differing opinion on that part.
Broken
But like,
glass it was so that was so Kubrick to me. That's felt like
The broken glass wasn't Kubrick's
a
idea.
Clockwork Orange feel. Like that whole ending was like, oh, this feels comfortable Kubrick. Like I get this piece.
Huh.
Like this
Only
is
Mariah
weird.
would say
This is
Clockwork
weird and-
Orange is comfortable Kubrick. That is a
Comfortable.
very weird.
I feel
That's
but
really
it was it was
the G-rated movie you're not comfortable with, but it's
No.
Clockwork Orange. You're cool with?
yeah.
Okay.
Peel your eyelids
All right.
back.
Okay.
Watch
Huh.
the
Oh,
Weird.
I will say that, my one, aside from the ape costumes, and I'll forgive them, it was more to me the anatomy felt like just too human in a suit. But and apparently they spent like $100,000 trying to come up with these long fingers for those characters, and it didn't work. And they're like, that money's gone. When the guy on like the Pan Am spaceship's like drinking his little meal,
That's great.
and he sets it down and it starts floating, it's so clearly like fishing line just going it's like all the other effects in this movie are like amazing, and
Yeah.
someone's just like, let me just
yeah. And it would have
float
been
this-
the liquid coming out of there, not just like
No, you think
well,
of it
they're
as,
in
like,
little suckers.
they're
He had to like
suckers.
suck
Yeah,
them
we're
or
good.
something.
I'm okay with that.
I do
That's-
But
like
no,
the
it was
color
just-
coordination of like what color am I picking for this meal?
Yeah, it was just that it like floated directly like sideways off his lap without being motivated to do it. I was just like, oh, come on, guys. Everything else you've done is like immaculate, and that's the take you
This
went
is
with.
where you get sloppy
Yeah.
Yeah.
in the cafeteria.
I want one more shout out to Frankenstein, the created rising up against the creator. Is a lot of people give the AI thing credit to the Frankenstein story as well. So it's the whole.
You
I love.
create something and that something
Yes.
gets carried away.
So a lot of people use the
doesn't
Frankenstein.
do what you expect.
We shouldn't play God. You know?
Exactly right. And the other thing that I thought was, speaking of playing God,
Oh, Bella.
he really wanted to get the essence of every mythology, religion in this story as well, which is that we become enlightened and we die and then we come back as a greater thing. And that was like true of like every myth and every story ever. And so I thought that was kind of interesting because he really just wanted to get the essence of human life. And I love that despite my distaste for his lazy editing. I love what he was trying to do and he did it. He did all the things.
So that's the guy that pays someone to edit some of his stuff.
Hey, I know. I wish Stanley knew. Actually, I guess it's not Stanley. It's his editor. Here's
That
the thing,
one
though.
guy.
Imagine because even being the DOP for Kubrick is often like chatting in his ear. Hey, why don't you do an F2 on this? Like doing the F stop on it, or telling him like,
Yeah.
this should be more. Let's do
Because
more
if he
wide
had
open.
his way, he would have done every single little
Oh,
piece by himself, and
100%.
it would have taken 50 years per movie, not 10 years
But
per movie.
he's still a collaborator. He won't. That's what I do appreciate about him. He's still a collaborator, and this tyrant of a movie director, I feel he does get pigeonholed, but he still is open to ideas all the time, which I think is what makes him great. Because if he was just a tyrant who just did it his way or the highway, these movies
No,
wouldn't
he
be as
sees
good.
something cool and he adjusts.
And he adjusts it, even if it's like something old or the World's Fair or whatever he saw. Like
Or that bone hit something and flew up in the air.
exactly right, and
Well,
he
one of the VFX soups for this was an artist working for like NASA training videos or something.
Yeah.
That he saw some demo and he's like, hey, come work on this movie or something. Anyway, it was just like someone with no filming experience basically came and worked on this and did like an amazing job. Yeah. Stuff like that is pretty fun.
Yeah.
So this movie, because I've watched it before, and I don't think I had the same problem with it before. I had a hard time. I'm like, where's this going? Because everything's there to make it it could be good on both levels. It could be good on appealing to the masses. And I feel like this is where the snobbiness really loses me. You have a chance to take science and show how it really works. You have a chance to take these visual arts and show how they really work. And you have a story that will be retold 1,000 times, and you can do this in such an amazing fashion. I wish there was like someone came out with a studio version of this, and then Stanley came out with this, which should be the director's cut, because this is the director's cut. This should be the director's cut, and someone should have came through like they did with George Lucas for the first 3 movies and chopped the crap out of Star Wars. Because, you know, George Lucas, again, he's not like a normal person. He can't think like, oh, human relationships are important to a movie. That was his wife who told him, hey, you should probably bring Leia and Hans back. Like, again, like what makes Kubrick and Lucas great is they're not normal people.
Yeah.
But I wish there was an editor or a studio.
These are people on the spectrum doing beautiful things. They just don't know how to relate to other humans. And it's...
I'm not going that.
Oh, it's great.
It's great. 100%.
It's great, but somebody also needs to be there and going, but what if we maybe did this?
This could be both.
You know
and
what everybody would like? If we did a little bit of
I
this.
just wish with his attention to detail, we could get the story. Princess Bride is still good. Guys, it's still good. It's edited within an inch of its life. There's not a moment. There's not a beat. And so is Interstellar. And it still has these long, crazy psychedelic scenes as well.
Spaceballs.
And so is Spaceballs. They go plaid. And you know what? It's very similar.
So similar. And they made it quick.
Yeah. Anyways. Pat, give us another
I'm sorry
argument.
you guys didn't... I made all my arguments. And
All right.
it's fine
it's not that,
you
I
don't...
didn't like it. It's
you don't
that,
agree. Yeah.
There was a lot to
It's
get
just that you
through.
hated it. Watch
No,
it.
I hated parts of it for sure, but I appreciate so much. I love the artsmanship. I love the craftsmanship. I love,
No, I'm
it's
not.
a beautiful. It's a beautiful painting, and I don't want to stare at it for 2.5 hours.
It's a snobby movie for these reasons. I would
It
say.
does
Makes it
become more
snobby.
snobby because people feel like they're intellectual by making it longer and boring. So I will
do
give it
love-
credit. It is
I
more snobby
do
for
love
that
the
reason.
zero gravity toilet so much, and the phone conference and the inside of the there's so many pieces that I'm like, wow,
No, sir.
The
that's-
world building is
that's
is
so
incredible.
amazing.
The world building is incredible.
Yeah. The story was stretched so thin and
Yeah.
not even recognizable in places.
Yeah, but it was all there.
But
it could have been.
we had Wikipedia to clear it up.
You know what's funny? I actually thought.
And now I do want to read the books.
I actually thought
honestly.
about Dune when I was thinking about this, because I read Dune before the movies came out, and I watched it, and I thought it was awesome. The new ones, not the old ones. Sorry, Sir Patrick Stewart. But I don't know how you understand those movies without reading the book.
You don't.
And I felt
You
the
have
same.
people like you and my friend
I felt
Sarah
the
to
same
clarify
way
it.
about this movie. I felt like you could maybe infer something here or there, like, yeah, probably aliens with a monolith.
But I think their declaration of nobody should understand this whole thing. It should leave you asking more questions.
and question who it's a God question. You will never understand who God is, and that's what they wanted the aliens to be. And I get that, but it doesn't mean we gotta land the ship for 20 minutes. I know.
Yeah.
And so again, like, I love that idea of keeping it open-ended and not explaining those last scenes, but they don't really explain it in Interstellar that well either. Like Interstellar, I love that we keep going back to that, because I feel like this is like with the black holes and like the concept of stuff we just don't understand. It's all magic. Everything you don't understand is a magical thing, and I love that he took that liberty. And I just wish it's one of those movies I just wish could have been re-edited, but that'll never happen. Like, just have.
I mean, there's probably been fan edits somewhere out there.
Yeah,
People
probably.
agree
It
with
was
you,
a-
and they're like, here's the
what
90-minute
could have been.
cut.
Yeah.
of-
But
It
then-
was a beautiful
and they would have
weird,
Yeah.
confusing, extra long movie.
Because they would have recast it. They would have had like a big personality, which would have been anti the feel. And I get that. Because they probably would have thrown like, was it 69? Robert Redford in there as the main actor. And so I do, making it not about the humans was very I think maybe that's one of the hardest things that makes it so snobby.
Well, sure.
not
Everybody
about
walks
the
away
humans.
saying Hal was our favorite.
Exactly right.
We all know this.
Even though he kills everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Good stuff. I don't have much more to say except I could go through all the other cool things they did to make this movie. Like putting film in the freezer without developing it. So, because the more you develop film, the more brittle it gets. So they didn't even know what they shot until later. Stuff like that. They had more amazing contraptions and rear projection and super reflective surfaces so that it could even show up. The amount that the actors just weren't even told much to do anything, because the retakes weren't because they're telling the actor, now do this with more feeling. No, never that. It was all like the 17,000
Hit the mark.
all the VFX we have, that all went wrong. So we got to do this 6 or 7 more times.
Yeah.
So this is a movie wonder.
The total footage shot was 200 times the length of the actual final.
That's crazy.
200.
That's nuts. And Stanley Kubrick would probably only wanted to cut 100
So
of
really,
it,
you're
so-
judging the edit, and that's a lot of editing.
Yeah, and it should have been more. It should have been more. That's
But
I feel,
that's
did we
telling
say the
somebody,
same thing
like-
about like Killers of the Flower Moon? Did we say
100%.
the same?
Yeah.
I literally was thinking that the whole time. I'm like, this is Martin Scorsese. This is
But-
exactly what happened.
this is somebody
Martin
who has
Scorsese
a
and Kubrick had the
dumpster-
same problem.
But to stick up for these movies, these are people that have a dumpster full of
Yeah.
footage, and they're asked to put it into like one of those tiny bathroom trash cans,
100%.
and make a movie into.
Or
that.
you-
like, how much can you
But they
throw
know that.
away?
They know
that.
that going in.
Please, they know that. Especially,
But still, that
I
doesn't
think
make
what's-
it. That
oh.
doesn't make it
What's-
easy.
What's interesting to me about Kubrick, for being someone who's so meticulous about all this detail, he doesn't. Someone who storyboards,
Yeah.
edits in that process, and so they kind of shoot closer to what they need. Like Ridley Scott shoots closer,
Oh, way closer.
basically, to what the movie is out of the gate. And it's interesting that Kubrick doesn't, right? Like, for as meticulous as he is about everything he's trying to do.
He doesn't care about story. He doesn't care about
Yeah,
story.
but like,
he cares about
But he also
concepts.
knows he can't put a 200-hour movie in the theater.
No.
So he
Little time out
knows
here, guys.
he's
Little
got to
time
cut
out
something.
here.
Hello, Dot.
Hi, Dot.
Good night.
Good night, love. Mwah. Kiss
Good
on the
night,
lips,
Dad.
because that makes Pat uncomfortable.
I couldn't get to the lips.
Oh.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Mwah. There we go. That makes
yeah.
Uncle Pat.
She was in between. She's in between.
Love
We're
you, Dottie.
dodging. Good night, Dottie.
Mwah. Hug, big hug. Love you, Dottie. Giant hug. I do think about that every time. Dottie loves kissing lips now, and every time I think about Uncle Pat, he hates kissing on the lips so much. We never kissed on the lips growing up, so that's why it's even funnier
Oh
now.
yeah, we did. And
That's even
Finn's
funnier.
actually only started wanting to do that because I've been working with Eric, so I've been gone most of the days. So suddenly he's like real affectionate. Like, I don't want to do more kisses.
Where's my mom? Absent parents.
One kissy is plenty, guys.
Absent parents. All right, Pat. Keep going on your diatribe of why you're wrong. I mean, why you're right.
Can I go potty?
No. We covered it. I presented the facts. It's up to the audience to determine how right I am versus how wrong you guys are.
I like that. Okay, here's my final take, and then let's have this is a new thing. Final take.
Final take.
Final take. This is my final take, and we'll give Mariah a chance to come back for the final take. Nothing compares to the influence that 2001: The Space Odyssey has in cinema since maybe Citizen Kane or the original movies or talkies came around. However, the editing, the story, while compelling, obviously cares more about showing you what is possible in movies rather than entertaining you. And while this is a noble effort, it is not a perfect movie. It's a perfect example of trying to push the envelope of what movies can be. So thank you, Stanley Kubrick, for being that anal director. But thank you to everyone else after him for making movies that are actually watchable. This is Seth, your local critic.
I appreciate that final take. Honestly, I don't think mine's not that different. It's just like you watch this movie to be inspired by craftsmanship and world building, not for an emotionally engaging story. Although there is some of that.
There's some of that.
It's not why you should watch this movie. And for people who are strictly looking for that, I will not recommend this movie to them.
For
I
sure.
think anyone who's like interested in just the craft of movies, I think should watch this movie, and they will be delighted, and they'll see all the stuff that this movie, inspired and touched. And I think like a big point of this podcast, at least for me at this point, is to see all these connections
Yes.
to
that's
all
true.
this other stuff you see all the time, and like this is a centerpiece of that kind of
Must watch. This is a must watch
web.
for movie snobs. I will give you that. This is a must watch for sure.
Speaking of movie snobs, can I tell you that we almost could have had a special guest tonight who I'm actually married to?
Oh,
He loves his movies.
I was delighted to get through the first half, and I was like, I'm so tired, I have to go to bed. He stayed up and watched the whole rest of the movie and was like, oh, so I just have to watch the beginning if I want to come sit in on the podcast? Like, he was actually thinking, like, I would do that. Like, he enjoyed it
That's
enough
so
that I was like,
great.
really? You finished it? Like, no
good
problem.
job, Eric.
Guy
Yeah.
who doesn't want to watch
Eric's-
anything we're watching ever most of the
Eric's
time.
snobbier than we are on this one. Who knew? Who knew, Mariah?
He has his moments.
Yeah,
It's
that's-
not
that's how it is.
Hoosiers, which would have been his pick. If
Hey,
we ever
Hoosiers
do
is
Hoosiers,
legit.
he's in.
That's a legit movie.
Yours is
Yeah.
good.
It is.
We did our final takes, and they're very similar, but just from the other side. I said this is a movie masterpiece that isn't worth watching. No, this is one of those movies I'd watch with other filmmakers. Like, how the crap do they do that?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, okay, obviously
Yeah.
this is bad editing, but this is amazing. How look how they get all those different screens in there for film. Like for now, it's
Yes.
digital. It's hard.
The VFX of it,
Oh,
you could
it's
teach,
great.
and people do,
They
a
do,
class
yeah.
on just shot construction and framing and
Yes.
like
exactly right.
hiding technique, and it's so rich in that
Yeah.
I would,
Yeah.
I did that myself. I would kept going back on scenes, and I was like, wait a minute,
Yes. Oh.
what happened
What?
there?
Yeah.
Okay, Mariah, what's your final take?
My final take is, as usual, in discussing the movie, I appreciated it way more than I did watching it by myself. I had a lot of like, ugh. This was so... I had to chop it up quite a bit. I enjoyed the ending. I enjoyed pieces. I enjoyed the special effects a great deal. I enjoyed the music. I enjoyed a lot of things, but oh gosh, man, that could have been shorter. That's what I would have appreciated.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. I don't know that I would try and watch it again.
Yeah.
Unless there was like a Kubrick Fest weekend and it was just things playing back to back to back. And I think that
In the
would
background
be actually
while I'm having
worth
dinner and
that
having
would
a
be
beer.
worth
That'd
an
be cool.
effort. It would be worth an effort to do a Kubrick Fest
For sure.
weekend because everything is so different.
So different.
The mood changes.
Yep. No, he's still one of the greatest, despite his almost
Strange-
apathetic
strange behavior.
care of like the actual story.
That's why Pat likes him so much.
Here's another fun thing. His acknowledgement of religion and science together is a very fun thing about this, because a lot of people on a more
Either
conservative
or people.
on a conservative side of a certain belief would be kind of like, oh, this is anti, but really it's kind of for as well, because Kubrick, as a Jewish man, I don't know how, I haven't looked this up how much he really is into or whatever. I think he's more atheist, but acknowledges this concept of beyond what we understand. There being
Searching
this thing,
for-
whether that be alien life or God or whatever else, there is this concept of science is like we're from before and after, but there's definitely something we don't understand. So this movie, while it comes across like, oh, this is anti religion, it really isn't. It has this feel of like, all things we don't understand what could be or what will be, and I think that's what's beautiful about it.
I wouldn't say it's totally anti-human experience because he is all about the connectedness of it all.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't really care about the character development piece of it, but
he doesn't care about
he
humans.
cared about the connectedness of the apes
Maybe.
and the aliens.
I've got it. Kubrick doesn't care about people. He only cares about tech. He's a techie through and through. He can't connect with humans,
He can
which is
connect
why
with animals
his
and
movies are the way
extraterrestrial.
they are. Clockwork Orange makes sense. The Shining makes sense. Shoot, this makes a lot of sense. He can't connect with humans, and that's what makes him a good filmmaker.
Well,
I
I
don't
think
know where
he's,
Barry Lyndon fits in.
Oh, please.
he's interested in the
just have a sword
flaws
fight.
of humans, right? Like
Cousins, huh? First
almost all
cousins?
those movies.
It's cool, right? We're first cousins.
Oh boy. I would say all his movies kind of share this dissection of the flaws in humanity.
Mm-hmm.
But I think obviously from that perspective, he's got a disconnect maybe with wanting to know individual humans because he's seen how terrible humanity can be.
Well,
and so I think this movie
yeah.
is like almost in a way it's like it's optimistic in like, you know, maybe there's an intelligence out there that could reach
won't-
down
That won't crack
and
under
help
the
us-
pressure and kill everybody.
well no not
Like
not the
Jack.
Hal intelligence
like
but,
Jack and Hal,
yeah
who are like, oh, I'm so
But that-
stressed out. I'm just gonna get
Yeah.
rid of everyone.
well, you know, that there's something out there that can reach out to humans and help us evolve to a higher form of life that maybe grows beyond violence and our petty squabbles.
Very Star Trek.
So, you know, I think there's an optimism
Very Star
there.
Trek, which brings us back to...
Yeah, let's hope everyone.
Yeah.
I'm not optimistic.
V'ger.
No.
I'm not pessimistic. Anyways, guys, is this a snobby movie? Oh, jeez, you can't even have that conversation.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. This is, I would argue, this is a top 10 snobby movie. Is it my top 10 movie? No. But is this a top 10 snobby movie? Oh, 100%. This isn't Citizen Kane, Bicycle Thief. This is like top tier Metropolis territory. There's not much else that can really compare to how this has changed the way movies are made. And the good news is he didn't have to waste any time with worrying about the story. He just worried about the craft so that he could help all the future movies get on there. So it's very selfless of him to make this movie without having to worry with like a whole side of the movie, just to
As with the
help
true
movie.
movie,
I mean-
open the doors for other people to make good movies that people want to
Imagine
watch
how long
all
the
the way
movie
through.
Would have been.
Imagine
oh my
how long
gosh.
the movie would be if he put emotions into it.
Or like
way too
Oh.
long.
Or like a love story. They just been looking at each other forlornly for like
Yeah.
30 minutes, not saying anything. Oh wait, that's Barry Lyndon. That's right. He did make that movie. Okay, folks.
Just
That's,
lying in repose.
The cousin love weird movie.
guys, I'm Seth,
Mariah.
And Pat.
and we just watched one of the most snobby sci-fi movies of all time. It puts sci-fi back on the map as a respectable form of media until the Marvel Universe killed it. But in the meantime, folks, keep watching snobby movies. We'll be back next week with a new episode and a new snobby movie. Thanks for listening. Subscribe, like, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye bye.
Bye.